So, Sarah, welcome to Los Angeles and welcome to Global View. For our audience, just a little introduction, but I will let you introduce yourself. You're a journalist and you are a contributor to a slightly offensive TV. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I started with slightlyoffensive.com just a short while ago. Before that, I was working for Rebel News for about 2.5 years as a journalist and just doing some behind the scenes editing stuff. And then I also worked for Babylon Bee for a little while and done some work with Turning Point USA too. And yeah, now I'm working with Elijah Schaefer at slightlyoffensive.com, and it's been really fun so far.
I love that you combine political commentary with humor. So
Yeah.
I think it's the way people get it. And, it tells a lot about also Generation Z, where, how does it feel for you to be a conservative? You describe yourself as a Catholic and a nationalist, but then you deliver content also in a funny way. So like to make it digestible to everybody. So how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a big Gen Z thing is a lot of people understand politics through humor. I think there's a lot of people who say, like, the left can't meme, right? Because they're just not good at doing it. And they're kind of behind when it comes to things like podcasts like this as well. Like, they're kind of behind when it comes to jumping on independent media. I mean, we have Gavin Newsom trying to do that now, right? But they're all kind of behind when it comes to these new mediums that are very, like, modern and young and everything. And thankfully, I think conservatives have been, like, ahead of the game with that stuff. And with humor, you have, like, the Babylon Bee, but you also have just, like, memes going viral online and like starting, like even like the JD Vance memes and everything like that. Like it's all very right-wing coded.
I saw some of it. I like it. So I want to have your take, George, about it.
No, absolutely. So what makes a meme go viral? Because, I mean, obviously we've seen the JD Vance memes. We've seen some of these other memes go viral. We know that young people, especially your generation, are really hooked on social media and actually getting so much of their information from social media. So what really makes that go into overdrive? Is there like a special sauce? Are there special characteristics that you think it is, or what do you think?
I think a lot of it is shock value. Like I think even with the JD Vance stuff, like people were sharing that because it was like really funny, like photoshopped, super weird, like super fat JD Vance or something like that. And so people love like the shock value of like, I don't know, seeing their vice president like that and then seeing him share the memes about himself too. It's kind of the same thing. So, yeah, I think that's what a lot of it is, like edgy humor and all this stuff, like saying something that you're not really allowed to say. And then people, like that's what drives up the engagement because people are sharing things that they're kind of like not supposed to share, not supposed to say or whatever. And I think that's what makes things go viral.
So you have been recently viral for saying what?
Well, yeah. So I went on the YouTube show Jubilee. It's like a popular debate YouTube show, and I was debating this progressive Sam Cedar from the Majority Report, and he made this claim that the only people who are happy that Trump won the election are billionaires, Christian fundamentalists, and xenophobic nationalists. So I heard that, and I'm just like, okay, so like who is he really calling a xenophobic nationalist then? Right? It's just like people who care about putting America first, I'm guessing, people who don't want multiculturalism, don't want open borders, all this stuff. So I went up there and said, like, whoa, what's wrong with being a xenophobic nationalist? And yeah, I think that was like the moment that went viral because it was like a shocking thing to say, right?
Well, they call me xenophobic too, but my accent, you understand, I can't be xenophobic. I'm Italian, but, came here through a legal process. And also about illegal immigration. I like one post you made about Kristi Noem. Actually, I totally agree with you. There is a line that must be drawn between standing up for legal immigration and not making deportation ideological motivated. So how can you articulate, because I really like the post you made on Instagram about it.
Are you talking about the one?
She was this Venezuelan prisoner.
Yeah, I think my problem with that, I mean, I don't have a problem with, deporting people. Obviously, I'm fully in support of that. And even I just feel like a lot of the imagery from the Trump administration has been very they're trying to make it look like they're being super aggressive. We're cracking down on our enemies and we're like treating them so, you know, in a way, like treating them bad, like putting them like in this prison, like packing them all tight together and trying to like glorify that, I guess, to try to give Republicans this like satisfaction of like, yes, we're like punishing our enemies. But I think the problem with that is that we're not even seeing that many deportations right now. So it's like, you know, we're seeing lower deportation numbers than during the Biden administration right now, if you actually look at the numbers. And so that's what I find kind of concerning.
That's shocking, too.
Like, no one knows that.
There were like all these flights, deportation flights.
Because they're doing it, it's all
communication.
It's very like propaganda of like, whoa, look at all this stuff we're doing, look at all this imagery. But you actually look at the numbers and you're like, wait a second, there's actually not that much going on. Right? Like, we're not deporting, like, we were promised the biggest deportation mission we've ever seen in U.S. history. That's what Trump promised. And there's been a lot of liberal judges blocking, you know, what he's been trying to do. There's been, like, roadblocks to this. But it's just, like, the truth is we're not actually seeing that many deportations. But but no one even realizes that because the imagery has been so strong.
So you are telling that what we see in this administration is more what we want to focus on, social media, rather than what has been done effectively. And how do we fill the gap?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to see like the White House posting memes about deporting people. I want them to actually be deporting people. I want them to be deporting as many people as they possibly can.
Are we becoming influencers of politics rather than politicians?
Right.
It's a kind of like I see that also with some prime minister overseas that they do a lot of posts, you know, they gain a lot of followers, but then their countries are collapsing at home. You know, like I've done this and that, but then people says no. It's like what you say. Yeah. So
it's like a facade. Like it's all about the media. And you know, I like Trump. Like I support Trump. I voted for him because I wanted the deportations, because I want these things he promised. So it's kind of disappointing to me, like when it's not happening as much, but they're kind of trying to cover that up. That's kind of the way I see it.
So why do you think things have slowed down? Do you think it's the people working within his administration? Because during his first administration, he had a lot of these people that were like subverting his agenda. He came in with these grandiose ideas to change the world, change America his first term, and then he was basically sabotaged from within. Yeah. Do you think they're doing it this time around, or what do you think why is it being slow?
Yeah, I can see a bit of that. I think there's some like special interest groups and things like that. Trump's paying a little bit too much attention to the donors who helped get him elected. Even the stuff with Elon Musk, like I like Elon Musk and I really like support all the Doge stuff, but I feel like that's kind of been like the face of the Trump administration right now has been all the Doge stuff and like cutting spending and everything. And like, yeah, I support that. Like I want that to happen, but I kind of want deportations more than that. You know what I mean? Like I think that should be the priority. And I feel like we're kind of like, it's kind of like last minute, they're kind of making that like the exciting stuff that's going on. And it just makes me worried because we're going to have the midterms coming up soon. And then, you already know as soon as it's like, oh, we have to start campaigning for the midterms, they're not going to want to do anything that can, push away any like middle of the line voters or anything like that.
So what is the biggest threat you see today in America, culturally and, politically, besides the illegal immigrants? Like, do you think this is the major milestone we have to overcome to finally be safe or having jobs back to American citizens? Or what is the biggest, what bothers you the most about illegal immigrations? Funding, your perspective.
I think illegal immigration is it's a huge threat, but I think it's part of a bigger threat, which I just see is like the loss of national sovereignty in America. So, like, we have all these other nations that have control of our government right now, basically. And then we also have people flooding in illegally. But then there's also, like, we're seeing, like, mass legal immigration, too, and people are displacing American workers. And so I think there's, like, many different layers to the problem of, like, a loss of national sovereignty. But yeah, I feel like that's probably the biggest thing. And then also I would just say loss of Christianity, because there's so many different things that come from that. Like we have a loss of Christianity. Well, now we have abortion and we have all this LGBT stuff and we have, feminism and people aren't having children. And it's kind of twofold because it's like now we're not reproducing and then we're replacing ourselves with people from other countries who don't really respect our culture as much. And it's like a twofold problem.
So what does American identity look like to you? Like if you could characterize, if you could talk to the Europeans or Asians or, people from other parts of the world and they ask you, what's America to you? What is America to you?
Well, I kind of said in that video with Sam Cedar, but I think we have, like, the identity of our nation is very focused on Christianity and European culture and European values. So a lot of that, like, even just like the Enlightenment movement came from Europe. And, this like individualism and freedom, all these ideologies came from Europe to America. And then same with Christianity, like the majority of people in America have been Christian. And I think that influences our culture so much more than people realize because we've been living in it. So we don't even, we don't even realize that's a culture we're living in because we're so used to it. Even just like the idea of like charity and caring for others, like we kind of take it for granted, but these are Christian values. And a lot of our, values of like freedom and individualism come from Europe too. So I think it's kind of like a mix of those two cultures.
Now, let me play the devil's advocate, though I substantially agree with you. Some people would say that America, unlike most of European countries, is the result of major immigration flows from Christian country, from Italy, from Greece, for example, here, or from Ireland. So this is also part of American identity. How do you see these groups? And how you identify America identity in the light of this? It's a religious identity, it's Christianity, or it's something more?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of people are bringing up like, oh, well, what about, like Irish or Italian immigrants who came, and it's like, well, yeah, but I think when the Irish and the Italians came over, there was obviously a lot of like conflict there. But I think they kind of over time did assimilate into like what people call like WASP culture, like the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture. And there's aspects of that, like the Protestant work ethic and stuff, like innovation, all these things. But, I think for most of the time, if you like go into like a Walmart and you run into some random person who's just like a white person, you can't really tell if they're like Irish or Italian or Catholic or Protestant because we've all kind of like blended in together. And I think it's more that like Irish and Italians have blended into like Protestant culture than the other way around, even if they're still Catholic. But like as a culture, I think we're still kind of like a WASP nation overall, I'd say.
So do you think that there's like an agenda to replace this culture and with something? And if yes, what do you think they're trying to replace it with?
I think yes, 100%. I don't think they're trying to replace it with like one specific culture. I think it's just with multiculturalism in general. And it's almost bringing in all this confusion because we have people coming from all over the world and just like flooding our borders, and no one's really trying to assimilate anymore. They're kind of told to like keep their loyalty to other countries or keep their, their identity as, like, I don't know, like an Indian or a Chinese person or whatever. And that's like their core identity and their core way of life and culture, and they're not speaking English. Like, and yeah, I think it's kind of like becoming not even like a melting pot. It's just becoming chaos, if that makes sense. Like, it's just like becoming like multiculturalism is chaos. That's just the way I view it, because there's nothing you're united under anymore. It's just division. And we're seeing that like not just in the US, but we're seeing that in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, like all over Europe too, with mass immigration. So I think I view that as a huge problem.
In Europe, we have a very compelling issue is that an invasion from North African countries, so the religious aspect is actually overwhelmingly impactful, and it's a different history. We are not we're very young into this process. Well, actually, United States of America have a long history of immigrants, and that's why you have Little Italy, you have Greek Town, you have, 1,000 type of things. But today, as someone who came to America recently, pretty recently, let's say 7-8 years ago, to me it looks like some sort of melt pot. I mean, it's difficult for someone as an outsider to see and think, what does America look like? There is a healthy sense of identity, which I think when it gets lost, causes divisions. But there is also this product that's a result of years of something that has been happening for years. So would you like somehow to bring America back to its core identity? And how do we achieve this result given what has happened over the years?
Well, I don't think that, I don't think it's something like we can ever like fully go back to or anything like that. So I wouldn't advocate for that because I don't think that's possible. I just think what you really need to do is, I think when it comes to legal immigration, we need to cut down on even legal immigration a lot, because we have so many people here, and especially the young people, it's hard to find housing, hard to find work. It's just like we're overpopulated. And then I think obviously with illegal immigration, we need to get rid of that completely and follow through the mass deportations. And then I think when it comes to trying to like unite under something, I think we should be trying to like promote assimilation a bit more. So trying to encourage people to actually like speak English instead of like pandering to different like minority groups, and trying to like celebrate multiculturalism.
Like this, I don't know, Italian fest where there are pizza and meatballs. Yeah, forget about it. Just eat burgers and feel American, right? We're talking about these immigrants from Italy. They don't teach their children Italian because they want them to speak English, while other communities are really communitarian. Like they marry among each other, they stay here, but they're basically not.
Exactly. It's so like the idea of like a parallel community. They're not even integrating.
And they're not anything of either back home or here.
Yeah, exactly.
So, which is a problem, I think.
Yeah, that's true too. They lose their identity from back home, and they don't get a new American identity, really. It's like not good either way. Yeah. Yeah, I think we should just be like encouraging people to do that more. I think Christianity is a good thing to promote because that's something that everyone can unite under too.
Yes.
That's like the vision I see for the future is like if we have like more of like a Christian revival and people uniting under that, that's something that we can all kind of have in common again.
There's been a war against the church, both in Europe and in the United States, going back, let's say, 30 years at least. And it's actually been ramping up before Trump actually got to the Oval Office. Who do you think is really, when they say they are doing this, they are pushing this, they are attacking the church, in your investigative reporting or any, thing that you've uncovered, who is they? Who is doing this? Who's pulling the strings?
Well, that's... I guess it's like a mix of a lot of different people, but if we're just going to talk about like in the spiritual sense, I think there is like a very real spiritual attack against the church, and I think that kind of manifests through different groups of people. I mean, you can say it's the left. I would say it's probably from people who aren't Christian. I'll just say that, and because they have like a concerted effort to want to defeat Christianity, it's not coming from people who are Christian.
That's very true. And how does your views are received by your generation, by people that of your age?
Well, I think, Gen Z is like, we have a lot of liberals in Gen Z, but I think we actually had a majority vote for Trump in Gen Z in this past election. And of Gen Z conservatives, I think that we're seeing like a bigger share right now that are like hardline conservatives that want to see actually like return to tradition, return to nationalism, like all these things that are more, I guess you could say, like far right conservatives, but probably is just like a regular conservative from like 20 years ago or something. So I would say like Gen Z is probably behind me on a lot of my views, but not like every Gen Z or anything like that. But there's definitely like a greater share of hardcore Gen Z conservatives than like hardcore Gen Z baby boomers. Or hardcore baby boomers.
So what caused that shift in your generation versus some of the other generations that were more liberal? And now, because, if you watch Hollywood or if you watch mainstream media, it's always pushing these type of liberal agendas, wokeism, you name it. It's everywhere in society, or at least it was under Biden and Obama and Clinton, which he was trying to push. So why do you think this shift happened? What was the trigger that said enough is enough?
Well, I think with Gen Z, kind of like the benefit of Gen Z is we're the first generation to really actually grow up with the internet for our entire lives. And because of that, we went to school and we were told basically don't trust everything. Don't trust anything. we were kind of told that from our parents, from our teachers, everyone. We were told, don't just trust everything you read on the internet, and to try to like actually have some critical thinking. And so I think because of that, we're just less likely to believe everything that you see from like a mainstream news site or, you know, mainstream TV show or whatever. And we're more likely to go down different like independent avenues, and especially on social media or listening to podcasts, you know, watching documentaries about specific things we're interested in. So I think we're just more like ingesting independent voices instead of the mainstream stuff and trying to think critically about it. And I think that's led a lot more people to the truth, because we're not just like accepting what's placed in front of us. We're kind of digging for ourselves a bit more.
Yeah, it's so how do you because they're more critical, but you're also exposed to so much content, so you need to know how to become selective, and so that's why it's important the work you do, and you know, how you help people to have different point of view. You know, like we live in Los Angeles, you live in Orange County, I think, so it's a completely different type of crowd. You know, you can see here the newer generation are much drawn by Hollywood, and Hollywood is definitely been delivering a different type of content in the last last administration, at least with Biden. So it's kind of different type of casting in the movies. You know, they choose a certain type of people. Let's say they wanted to make this integration, assimilation happen by sometimes even forcing on the screen characters that don't fit.
Snow White. Well, I think we can just say it.
Exactly. Well, whatever. And so do you think Hollywood will be back, or, you know, there is something like we're going towards some sort of a social media era where everybody has a freedom of speech, and minds will finally wake up and say, okay, now we're gonna finally select what to believe, decide, make a decision about what to believe or not? Because it looks to me that most of the people have been kind of brainwashed.
Yeah, a lot of people have been brainwashed. I think I just have hope for the future, because it seems like more people have been waking up recently, but probably in the grand scheme of things, like, most people are still kind of brainwashed. But yeah, I think Hollywood is totally dying right now. I mean, when's the last... Yeah. I can't even remember the last time I saw, like, they came out with a good movie. Like, I feel like it's been so long. Everything's like a rerun. Everything gets bad ratings. I mean, I don't know. I guess the Barbie movie was kind of good, but besides that...
And it has been... I loved it.
Yeah, I like the Barbie movie, to be honest.
Yes, it was very cool. I like that too. I kind of loved it. Yeah. So I don't know, everybody was attacking the Barbie movie. I just saw it twice. So.
Yeah, but besides that, it's like, come on. Like, what?
Joker was very nice too.
Yeah, but there hasn't been like a lot.
Yeah,
I heard the second one was bad. I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they haven't been coming out with anything good. It's like, are they even trying? I think I heard... like a reason for that is that they don't really have to compete in America as much, because apparently like China watches our movies and they'll watch anything we put out, and they have so many people there. So it's almost like globalism is just like destroying our film industry now too, which I think is terrible.
Yeah.
So we were talking about like the creation of all these new mediums, right? That people are getting their information from, and Hollywood's dying. Do you think that the new generation is going to create like a new type of Hollywood, or do you think it's going to be streaming and podcasts, or almost going to be pseudo news and entertainment?
Well, we're definitely seeing a lot of the pseudo news and entertainment. It feels like everyone's doing it now, right? But I think it's hard because Hollywood does require like a lot of money behind it. So it's not really like you can create a super good movie just on your own. Like, you need a bunch of money, you need the equipment, you need all the staff. So I don't know. I think we'll just see more kind of independent film companies emerge. We'll see more of that. I mean, there's been a few good ones. Even James O'Keefe's movie, I thought that was pretty good.
Yes, Line on the Sand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good.
But it's still political type
it's very
of movie.
Political.
You know, we're talking about the pure entertainment.
Pure entertainment. I don't know. I mean, maybe Hollywood will just have to actually start creating good movies if they want people to watch it. I'm hoping.
Well,
I still enjoy good entertainment.
Yeah, me too. And I love LA for this too. Creativity is something that we should not let the left to monopolize, right? Yeah. We should own that. We can be creative too. We can can do beautiful things as well. But something about America, it's how diverse is America in different states. What represents, which state you think represent America the best? Because I don't think New York or California, which are the best known, really resume what America is.
It's kind of a hard question. I feel like it just instinctually, like I would say New York. Yeah, I would think like New York City kind of feels like, I don't know, we have like the Statue of Liberty there. That's where all the, new immigrants came from like Europe and stuff. But I don't really know. That's a good question.
Yeah, because we're talking about what is American identity, which city represents. And then you say New York, which is the biggest melting pot.
That's true.
So it's...
Well, I think I say that just because New York is when I think of like innovation.
Yeah, it's what is well known, the most well known.
Yeah, but it's also just like innovation. That's where like a lot of the money comes from, right?
Financial district. Financial district.
I don't really know though. That's kind of hard. What do you think?
I think personally that the hardcore Americans are in Texas and Florida. That's what to me the substance of America is done from. That's the majority of the Donald Trump voters are the real Americans. When we talk about real Americans, we're talking about the ones that I don't know, do not come from Europe, do not, I'm not saying that they're not Americans as well, absolutely. But I think the American culture is something very different to grasp in the big cities like New York or LA but I'm talking as an outsider, so I might have a different
I wouldn't really say like New York culture defines America. I wasn't really thinking that. I was just more thinking of like what would be the face of America.
And you, as an American yourself, you should, you definitely know better than me.
But as like for when it comes to like American culture, maybe somewhere more in the South. I would think.
Yeah, like where's the South? Not joking.
Yeah, maybe Georgia.
Georgia, yeah.
Maybe Texas. I feel like even Texas is weird though, because Texas almost has a separate culture because they're so like patriotic about being from Texas, right?
They love their states. They're sure very autonomous for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, identity is a really interesting topic. When it comes to European identity, there is nothing such as European Union identity yet. We have these different cultures, so rooted in history. So, and you come here to the United States and you see Texas and you see Florida and you see all this. That's really, I should write a book about it.
I know, it's weird because we'd have different like subcultures even just in America.
It is.
Even just like. We have like white Americans in California, a completely different culture from white Americans in New York or in like West Virginia. Like hillbilly culture is completely different.
Yeah.
So.
But what do you think the ultimate unifier is of American culture? Was it Christianity, if I understand correctly? Christianity, you have to be Christian to basically be American. Do you think that's like the core of American like nationalism, identity? Or is it European, or like is it 1 and 2 or 2 or 1 on the scale?
I think it's kind of difficult because in my mind it's kind of like both are on the same level, but I mean, I would say European is even above that because it's just true that like for the majority of American history, like the majority of the population has been white. And so in a way, it's like a white country, right? Like it's not like if it was like an Asian country, it would just have a completely different style, a different like culture and everything. It would look completely different. So, I mean, I don't think it could have, like America couldn't have been built by like Africans or Asians or anyone else. Like it is like a white European country, and there's like the founding stock of America and like all the descendants from them is like kind of what defines like the nation of America. That's what I would say. And then we have more people who have come in and kind of like blended into that, and like that's fine. But I think if we're talking about like at the core, I would say probably European. Also, like even if you just like think about like our history, like it was mostly Anglos, and they came from Europe to start a new nation for their people. Right? So like they said like for our people and our posterity. So they wanted to like give a much better life to future generations with like more prosperity and more freedom than they had in Europe. And like that's really like what America was founded on. And then I say Christianity just because like everyone was Christian at the time. And most people, we still have a Christian culture now. So I think if it was like, you know, if it was like a Muslim country also, it would look completely different too. Or if everyone was an atheist.
But European member states and national people, they have their sense of identity so pronounced because they are so dramatically different that even having this overstructure over them make them feel losing their sovereignty, not in terms of identity, but in terms of policies. So they have to give up their sovereignty on certain policy they can control. Immigration, for example, right? But I don't think there is any intent of European Union to change Greek culture or Italian culture or this inner sense of identity. This threat comes probably more from in controlled immigration from the other, you know, the Northern African country, but it's not Europe as construction, political construction that is a threat to national identities, in my view. But in America, you were born this way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that like being a part of the European Union would necessarily make a nation lose its like culture or identity on its own. But I would say, yeah, when it comes to like national sovereignty, I mean, I guess you could argue like kind of you lose like a little bit of loyalty to your own country if you're having to give up some of that loyalty to like this overarching government.
Yeah, and also
it's like Brexit too.
It's like you can't make. Well, that's people don't understand. The reason why Brexit happened was because London and UK became like Islamabad.
I visited England last summer, and I remember just like the contrast. I went in the British the National Portrait Gallery, and I'm looking at like these beautiful paintings of like kings and queens that are like 800-year-old paintings, right? And I'm like, wow, this is like crazy. This is like the British Empire. And like, this is like really like my roots too as an American. And then I walk outside and it's just like Pakistanis everywhere. And I'm like, it's like
this
weird.
Curry food, and
you're just like, I'm hearing like Indian music and like, you know, I'm like smelling like these like ethnic street foods. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's like, this is just like, we're just throwing it all away. It's just like down the drain. Like, it's all going to end here. Like, this is where like the British Empire ends.
It is.
Like, it is just over the course of 10 years. It's like, why?
And France
like, what
as
are
well.
we doing this for? Like, why does no one care?
They try to care axing, but looks like they're doing worse than before. So they did something wrong. But anyway, we could talk forever. I think our time is running. I have one last question, maybe. I let you.
My last question really is: so, what's the solution to bring back American values and traditions, and to stop, I guess, the bleeding? Like maybe you characterize it like there's a situation where America's kind of bleeding. How do you put either a Band-Aid on it or make a permanent solution?
Yeah, well, I guess like I said, we need to actually like hold Trump accountable when it comes to these mass deportations. That's really going to help a lot. And it not only is like, you know, it's going to help our country in like a physical sense, but that kind of helps with our national identity too. I think just like saying like, no, like you can't just come in and take over a country. Like we have a sense of national sovereignty, national pride here, and we need to get that back. And then also, I think we need to be promoting Christianity and promoting our European heritage. There's nothing wrong with being a white person, being of European heritage, and like acknowledging who built the country and the foundation of the country. And I think that's like just like acknowledging these simple truths is like really the only way to get things back to how they were, to make things better.
Where people can find you and follow you.
Yeah, you can follow my Twitter, Sarah C. Stock. And I'm on Instagram too. It's just sarah.stock.politics.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.